before we get into the business of the actual network itself, let me give you a very quick overview, a brief introduction to the TeaMLit project, in case this is something new for you. Essentially, the TeaMLit project, which is supported by the European Media and Information Fund, is all about establishing a value-added and sustainable network on the topic of teacher training in the area of media literacy. Those of us who are involved in the project, and you can see the partner list on the right-hand side of the screen, really believe strongly that if we're going to make sure that media literacy rolls out effectively in Europe, we need a very strong community of teachers who are already themselves experienced, skilled and motivated in the area of media literacy. So it's an 18-month-long project. As you can see, there are 3 different work packages, 3 different areas of work. The first is on research, review and analysis, and we dealt with that work package a couple of weeks ago if you joined us. Today we're going to talk about the network development and practice scenarios, and the next session, which is in a couple of weeks' time, we're going to deal with the resources and the repository. So let me just go back a slide then. Thanks, Chloe. If we go back to tell you what we're going to cover in this session this afternoon is, after this short introduction, I'm delighted to hand over to Igor and to Tamara from DKMK in Croatia, who are leading on the work to build our network of teacher trainers. They'll tell you more about what's happening in that work and where you can join if you're interested. We're then going to introduce you to 2 short practice scenarios. The first one is going to be led by our colleague and partner, Bert Pieters from Mediawijs in Belgium, talking about a scenario that he uses in his work called training in images. And then Igor is going to present a scenario which is used in Croatia called main challenges in self-respect and respecting others in virtual space. So we're going to show you these 2 scenarios. My colleagues are going to introduce them to you. Then we're going to take a little bit of time for some short breakouts to hear from you and to have an opportunity for discussion with you. And then we'll do a wrap up at about 3:05 and we'll finish at 3:15 here at local time in Belgium. So without any further ado, I would like to hand over to Igor, who is going to introduce us and talk to us through the work to create a successful network of teacher trainers in the area of media literacy in Europe. Igor.
Hello, everyone. It's nice to see so many colleagues from community, and I'm sure that you will find so many information today on this great session, as we will showcase some of the things that we have already produced within our project. And one of the most important things for us is the network, the TeaMLit network that we are building on, and actually it is becoming type of a community. So I really hope that you will see so many interesting points here, ideas, some motivations, and that you will also maybe become a part of the network. And yes, spread the news out there and see if some others can join us as well in our great project. So when we think about the 2 important things that we are responsible for in this great project, and these ones are community network and practice scenarios, one are tightly connected with each other. So we will start with the community network, as some of the things that we have already witnessed in our community and reports that we have read and need analysis has showed that there is no single point of contact for those wishing to benefit from the experience of others in this area. So for this reason, we have identified as our main target group and our main public and our main audience, teacher educators in pre-service and in service. And actually, as we were researching this area, we saw that we really have a huge lack of resources and that we are also lacking support for these teachers throughout the European Union, but not just within EU27, even abroad. Our approach to this gap was to set up that specific dedicated network, which we will provide value for its members and opportunities as well, and provide to expand their knowledge, share their practice, which is one of the most important topics for us, as on most of our meetings, we definitely start with that approach to share the practice, to discuss the practice, to gain and get some other ideas, and to see how can we help each other in this area. So 2 main activities, community network and practice scenarios. I will start with the community network, as this is the most important topic for us is in this first part. And actually, we have already achieved most of the things that we have planned in our project, and that's the number of countries, as we have suggested that we will provide content and activity for members from 14 different countries. And this has been achieved already in November this year. Why is this important? Because we would like to share the experience. One of the things that we have identified in other working packages, such as working package 2, is that we have the same problems in our countries. And if you have already participated in the network meetings, you probably already witnessed that even when we have different experience and sharing our experience from different perspectives, we can identify the same problems, the same challenges that we all have. So this is just the list of the countries at the moment, 50 new members of the network, 50 new members of the network, which is a great number. And actually, we are not so focused on the number, but on the quality of our meetings, of the system, of how we work. And for this reason, we will even upgrade it in the next period. Who can be a member of the network? And this is a special call for each one of you. If you are focusing on teacher education in pre-service and in-service, or providing TOT programs, then you are the right participant for us, and we hope that you will also join our network. Some data on those who are already participating: master degrees on PhD on media literacy, media and communication, in-service educated and non-formal educated by NGOs like SchoolNet, Mediawijs, or any others. So there are so many different things that we already learned from the network, and I will share some of the things that we have already learned in the next few minutes. We already start our networks, and every meeting is practically has the same structure. So we start with one motivational speech. In first meeting, we had Nicola Bruno from Open Blocks presenting his work. In the second one, Megan from NAMLE, which is the biggest association for media literacy in the United States. And finally, on our last meeting, we learned about the experience from Media Education Lab from Jonty Frisem, at the moment Media Education Lab Director from USA. And the reason why we are including them at the beginning of our meetings is that we want to share the knowledge and learn about other experiences, especially when they come from other countries and continents. And we will continue with this approach as well, even on our next meeting that will be on 9th of January next year. So what were our main objectives? And as I said, we already fulfilled some of them, although we are not at the end of the project because we still have some months in front of us. We have representatives from 14 countries and regions, 5 members in each partner country. That has been fulfilled. As Sally said, our partners come from Belgium, Ireland, Germany, Finland, and Croatia. We also are trying to identify, and we will pilot a minimum of 10 practice scenarios across regional national borders. I will soon explain what we mean by these practice scenarios. But the main goal, and that's maybe one of the most important indicators of sustainability, will be to support dialogue amongst network members. It's not just to have people together and to provide support for them. Our idea was also to identify gaps in currently available education and training resources that are used in teacher education and training in media and information literacy. And we are gathering information on so many different levels, layers, and channels. And based upon that information, we will provide and produce 5 new educational modules by our colleagues from Mediawijs. And that will be also showcased soon next year, we believe in February next year, on the biggest media literacy conference in Brussels. How we work, this is just one example where we were focusing on the media literacy core principles produced by NAMLE. You probably are all familiar with all these 10 core principles. And while we were listening to the introduction by Megan, afterwards we had great group discussion and breakout sessions where we were reflecting on 2 main questions. So what core principles we see as those of high importance, and the other one, what core principles would you not prioritize, which is also important question because you can't cover them all. And that's how we learned also about specific characteristics of our members, of the countries they come from, because we learn so much while exchanging our experience. On another workshop, we were also focusing on SWOT analysis. I know that most of you are familiar with SWOT analysis, but we were reflecting on the activities that we have already produced while also thinking about what else can we do in this area and what would be the possible benefits from it. So this is just a screenshot from the workshop we had, identifying all these four main principles. And as you can see, it was not so easy to recognize the opportunities. And that's so interesting because it's easier to mention weaknesses and also the other topics are here listed. But it's interesting to get the information from the level, the lowest level, from the base, from those who are present in so many different teacher training programs throughout Europe, but even abroad, as you already saw from the number of countries that are participating. So even if you have any idea or would like to provide support to the network or become a member of the network, or at least share your experience, your programs, there is a great opportunity how to do so. And for this reason, we are now focusing on practice scenarios. Now, maybe this sounds awkward when you hear about this topic, practice scenarios. And actually, those are training courses, workshops aimed at teachers, courses and schemes set up to motivate, reward, or encourage teachers to take part in this learning. And for that reason, we were gathering all the best example practices from the Europe. That's how we built our repository. You will learn so much about repository in our next meetings and sessions, and especially on the conference in February. And based upon the information we gathered in this repository, then we were able to establish opportunities to test, or at least at the first moment to suggest 10 possible practice scenarios in cross-region and cross-border setting. While we were identifying these 10 scenarios, we were also thinking about how could they be contextualized and adjusted, adapted to the local level, having in mind also the language barrier, which is an important question for us. And for this reason, we are paying special attention to this challenge. So for instance, I will now showcase one example of that practice scenario, because afterwards I will present the example from Croatia. But just for this first part to have an impression, so from each country we had different nominations, and this is one example from Lina, and Lina is today with us, so she can also give some additional information if you're interested. And you can see the name of the activity, you can see the language of the activity. The program is created for in-service teachers in secondary school, 9 to 15, duration 45 minutes, 1 school hour, but that's the thing that definitely can be adjusted. Topics of the scenario: unpacking a hoax video of the spaghetti harvest, practicing steps for questioning multimodal media, questioning credibility of media messages, deconstructing design, narration, voice, language, genre, acquiring skills to apply critical media literacy framework questions. Now, also one of the most important topics is the format, because the format is changing, as probably you would expect by having so many different experiences from so many different angles and aspects. We see so many different formats. So here they're also emphasized by video watching with group work and discussion following, short guide on how to lead group work and discussion after the video, suggested further reading on the topic. And yes, you have also hyperlink to the video that is provided here in this session. Practice steps, video watching, short pair exchange, class discussion, first round and second round. And how to use materials, example presented at TeaMLit network meeting, spaghetti tree, introduction into critical media literacy question. So this is just a small screenshot with overview of activities, just one summary page. And usually how we present this scenario is that then if any member of the network finds at least some type of interest for this, then we connect the author of this scenario, of this practice, together with those interested. And then when we discuss the details, is this possible to contextualize, adopt to the local level, to see do we have any other challenges there. So for this reason, it is of great importance that we connect the author of the practice scenario together with the others. Practice scenario from Ireland, also one example, workshop in box. provides teachers, librarians, community leaders, and other learning facilitators with the resources they need to deliver a media literacy workshop. This is a different type of workshop of scenario in comparison to the one I just mentioned coming from Germany. Finland, also very interesting program, and actually I can say here today that we have starting to adopt this scenario even to the Croatian language, and we see so many similarities and possibilities how we can implement these activities at the Croatian level while providing training for in-service and pre-service teachers. So this infographic, The Hand of Mental Health in Media, could definitely be translated and contextualized to your local language and your local surrounding. And so I think this is a great example where we can definitely have a discussion later on. And I hope that you find some possibilities how you could use this maybe in your own programs in your local context. I would also like to announce the upcoming TeaMLit network meeting. It will be on 9th of January. We are in the working hours because the members of the network have chosen the working hours. Usually we have suggested that we have these types of meetings after the working hours, but their last decision and the last call was on that specific date and that time. So I hope that you will be able to join us. And I hope that you have some questions for later on for our breakout session. And I will now give the floor to Bert, and he will present his practice scenarios and and I will come back in 15 minutes time. Thank you a lot for your attention at the moment.
Before you completely disappear, Igor, let's just see if anybody has any immediate questions, if they have anything general they'd like to ask about joining the network, for example. It's open to anybody, isn't that right, who's involved in teacher training?
Absolutely.
Okay. Does it matter if they are going to do teacher training and they haven't got any experience yet? Is that, or can they still join?
Yeah, absolutely. As long as they have at least interest and the solid basis to do this, definitely they are able to join us, and we will connect. Tamara is also here, Tamara Kwas from our association. So if you have any type of interest, just let us know your name and contact, maybe in a private message also, if this is better solution for you, and we will provide all other information.
Yep, indeed. You can use, if rather than saying to everyone in the chat, you can
Yeah.
direct it directly to Tamara or to Igor if you'd like to join the network.
And maybe just one last line. This is really becoming a community. So network is the idea we had at the beginning, but while we are, participating, building it, we really realize that this has a strong potential to become something even better, bigger. And for this reason, we call it community.
Sure. And in the community, there is also a mailing list, so you can mail list to everybody. And then you can also, somebody's got a mic on somewhere. Okay, it's gone. And there's also a Facebook group about to launch, as far as I know, as well.
Yeah, that's the new information we just trying to launch, and we have built the Facebook group, and I think in 1 or 2 days time we will also provide the first information. So if you are willing to join this Facebook group as well, that's a great opportunity, and that will be probably for the everyday exchange of information and providing all other resources, materials. We are really happy with this initiative and looking forward to all new challenges that we have.
Great. And we also ask people when they join the network also to give a brief description of themselves as well, too, so that everyone can access.
So many other details, but as we didn't have enough time, I was trying to focus on the most important. We have a knowledge base. We have a special summary of each member of the network, so that's great for networking. So many new things, but I would not like to reveal all of them as,
okay.
I would like to keep the interest very high for this.
Okay, so that's to everybody who's joining us today. Join our network for teacher trainers in media literacy. That's the best advertising we can do, I think. So what happens next, of course, is that if you join the network, then we put you in contact with different practice scenarios and have an opportunity to try out some things yourselves. So we've picked on the two this afternoon that are going to be presented to give you an idea of what we mean indeed by a practice scenario. So Bert from Mediawijs here in Belgium is going to take us through the first one. Bert.
Hi, everybody. Let's try to share my screen with you. This should be working right now.
Working fine. Yep.
Hi. First of all, I'm sorry, there will be a lot of me in this short presentation because, well, this is something that we experienced with a few years ago. It is about visual literacy, visual language, images, because we think that we don't teach enough, or teachers do not teach enough about visuals, about images. So, well, this is me. And this is one of the exercises in the practice scenario. I'm wondering if you are seeing this picture, and this is about this is me. What is the first impression that you have in mind? And please do share it with me and all the rest in the chat. What are the impression? If you would describe this in one word or in two words, what would it be? So I see. Okay, I see a lot of words. And the funny thing is that your Italian is probably one of the things that comes up quite easily. I have no Italian roots. I didn't do any DNA testing yet, so maybe there is some Italian DNA in me. But so this is enthusiasm. People are saying this is being Italian, explaining something, teaching. Those are the things I want you to be, want you to see in it. But some people say, well, frustrated. Well, not really. I wasn't really frustrated on that picture, but well, it could be somebody saying what. So of course there are different points of view. So for some it's like enthusiasm. That was the one I was wanting to show, and explaining, but the frustrating thing, well, not really. So well, this is maybe not the ideal picture for me if I want to have, if I want to use this as a profile picture. Could be, but I could have. There are a lot of pictures of me, of course, because, well, I'm old enough to have like a zillion pictures taken of me. So I could have picked this one as well. And then I'm not going to ask you again, what do you think of me? Because this, we could do this exercise for a very long time. But if you, the first one is the one I wanted to show. This is the professional Bert. This is Bert in front of a group trying to explain things. The second picture, well, this is me with my family. I only have two children. Only one of those is mine, and stuff. But this is me and my brother and two of his children. So this is the family Bert. So I do like to do things together. That could be another thing I want to show you. But of course, if I have a picture, some people they use pictures of them as a child. This is me as a, I don't know, a 1-year-old, something, 2-year-old little boy. I could have used that one as well. So what if I had taken this one, what would it tell about me? Do you have something, some impressions of me? Could be something as well. Or I could have taken this picture. This is me. A few years ago, I took classes to become a tour guide, and this is after the last exam, when we had a little drink with some of the rest of the group. So as you can see, every picture in here is telling a story, and that's something we forget. We think, well, you pick a profile picture and you just pick one because you look good, but every profile picture is telling you something, and maybe not intentionally, but there is some there is some story behind it, or at least something, that some impressions you've got. And that's why it's important. We use a lot of pictures nowadays. We use a lot of pictures to communicate, to interpret. We get influenced by pictures, but in classes, teachers do not use it to. Well, they use it as some extra decor in a handbook and stuff like that, but they do not use it to analyze, to watch or to create. Some of them do, and I'm sure that a lot of the people in here do this, but a lot of them don't. So as Mediawijs, we said, well, we want to improve those skills. So we created the training in images. And the previous slide was so one of the experiments. So the experiment with what does this picture, this profile picture tell you, is one of the experiments within the training in images we have created a few years ago. And as you can see, this is me again. I am the person explaining what other people should do in some of the videos. In what is the training in images? It's a SHOOC. It's not a MOOC, it's a SHOOC, a short open online course. A SHOOC doesn't exist, but it's some invention, a word that I invented yesterday when I was creating this this presentation. It's a SHOOC because it's open, it's still online, but it's short. It's not something that you have you don't have to register, you don't have to enroll, but it's short, 5 videos with the basic of visual language, some experiments and some assignments in it as well. So it is aimed at teachers and we explain to them the basics of visual language, and then some experiments that they can do themselves and some assignments that it's like, try this with your students. So this is, and as you can see, those are some of the screenshots of the videos. 5 videos, meaning 5 chapters. One is we're trying to explain that every image is telling a story. Even if you don't intend to tell the story, there is a story, or at least people see some stories behind it. In a way, all images manipulate is a second chapter. Then you have, okay, to enforce some of the stories, you are using a specific grammar, a specific visual language. For example, if you want to look stronger, you change the angle of your camera. If it's a bit from behind, you look a bit taller, so you appear a bit stronger. That is some of the things that we explain over there. And then we have 2 specific videos. One is how to watch and analyze images, and the last one is how to create images in classroom. So 5 chapters that we're using. Just to give you one very short minute to show you how those videos look. This is the beginning of the second video, which is explaining that all images manipulate in some kind of way. And before I can do that, I need to change the subtitles into English. Sorry about that. And let's start over again.
De kleren maken de man, zo gaat het gezegde. Maar wat als de man niet op elk plekje van zijn lichaam even klassevol gekleed is? Als beeldenmaker maak je een belangrijke keuze. Toon je de man in close-up als de perfecte man, of toon je hem in zijn natuurlijke habitat? En kiezen is verliezen, ook dat is een gezegde. Met elke keuze die je maakt, vertel je een licht ander verhaal. Met elke keuze die je maakt, stuur je je kijker in een andere richting. Kortom, je manipuleert hem een beetje. Of je dat nu wil of niet.
Right. So you had a look at me at my previous house as well, because it was all done in my house. It was one of the first kind of videos we created with Mediawijs, so we didn't use studios and stuff like that back then. But it's short. In a short way, we try to introduce teachers to visual language, to visual literacy, and then afterwards we try to give them some experiments, some lessons that they can do in their class. I'm a bit out of time, so just I'm running through it. For example, one of the things that we want to do is that we want teachers to do, make a photograph of one sentence. For example, I'm not afraid. This is a previous queen of Belgium who is, it's explained in a video, who's showing an apple that she's not afraid, because people were saying that they were going to kill her with an air bow, and she was like, oh, I have an apple, I'll put it on my hat like William Tell did with his son, and I'm not afraid of you. But how can you express in one photograph a sentence, show the picture to other people, ask them what would it mean, improve the picture by changing for example the frame, a spotlight, colors. It's a good way to introduce the grammar of visual language like that. Some other experiments are, for example, with creating storyboards, using different shots, etc. Some deep dives into looking at pictures. That's but what we want to do, this is a practice scenario that we have created a few years ago. It was mostly aimed at teachers who are already teaching, and we wanted them to give them an incentive, like, you can do this, you can use visual language in your class, you can teach visual literacy. But it's time now to experiment this elsewhere in Europe, by, for example, sending or showing the videos to teachers to be. We have subtitled them in English, so you can maybe do that, or you can let teachers try out some of the experiments or the lessons IDs, because we want other people to test this as well. Maybe this is too Flemish culture, could be, maybe this is also interesting in the rest of Europe. We don't know, but we want you to try this as well. This was my presentation. So thank you.
Thank you, Bert. Thank you very much. I think we're still getting over the shock of seeing that picture. The group has probably gone very quiet at the moment. I'm just wondering, as a matter of interest, if we could just go back and sort of show everybody again, just in full screen. I'd just love to see a show of hands who people might be interested in having a go at that scenario, taking a look at the videos, maybe testing it out in their own environment. You all know that you've got a reactions button at the bottom. I think you can find your hand gestures there. Hands up, people who might be interested in trying that one out. You can skip Bert's legs if you want to. Eric, okay, and Lund. Crystal, I see. Okay, so we have quite a few people who would be keen to try that one out. Okay, great. Okay, well, we'll put, Bert, maybe the links are already there, as you can see. Thank you very much. Chloe's put them into the chat. So you can go and have a look at the videos yourselves, and you can follow up with our network, of course, as well. Then we're going to look at our second scenario without Bert's legs, I think. I think this will be coming from Igor, and Igor is going to introduce us to the Croatian practice scenario. Igor.
Hi, everyone. Once again, this was really a shook, and we enjoyed it every minute, although we knew that it would go in that direction. But it's always great to see how creative guys and all other team members from Mediawijs are. Really, it's so inspiring to work together. I now continue with Croatian practice scenario. It's not so inventive as the one coming from the Mediawijs. And actually, this is the one where you have a summary we have produced in coordination with my two other colleagues that are not today with us, Daniel and Lana. And it's called Main Challenges in Self-Respect and Respecting Others in Virtual Place. So this is the activity for in-service teachers in primary school, 11 to 15, duration 45 minutes. Courses that could be used to Croatian language, ICT, extracurricular activities, and librarians activities as well. I don't know if there is any librarian today with us, but this is also interesting always to point out to the specific course where it could be used. So we have 7 different topics of this scenario. And while we were presenting it for the first time, we saw that some participants of the network were interested just for one of these 7, and maybe just 1 or 2 you find useful at the moment, but that's why it's so important to have maybe a deeper view into the activity. So you have 7 different topics: protection of personal data on the internet, publication of peers' photographs on social media networks without their knowledge and approval, commenting content on the portals and social networks, sexting as a challenge, excluding others from groups and community networks on social networks, reporting violence, and netiquette, as familiar as the rules of proper and decent behavior and communication on the internet. We have also a written guide with no additional materials needed. And it's always important to point out to what are maybe some other preconditions that should be fulfilled in the classroom while preparing for this specific scenario. And we have practice steps, group work, as identified here. So some more details on the scenario. Educational materials for teachers in primary school. It has 18 pages. It has 7 different activities. It was developed within Croatian Media Literacy Days. I see some colleagues from Croatia that already participated in these activities, so they are familiar with the program. Supported by UNICEF and Agency for Electronic Media and produced in 2019. It is in open access through PDF on Croatian language. What were the main goals? To become aware of the netiquette and challenges of communication on internet, to analyze appropriate and inappropriate forms of behavior, to highlight the importance of personal data protection. So these 3 main goals were listed at the very beginning. The outcomes. So the participants will be able to apply the rules of the netiquette and communication, to distinguish appropriate and inappropriate forms of behavior, and to protect personal data when communicating on internet. The question of GDPR here is also very important, but it was not specified, and this is additional activity that could be included. While we were thinking about what would be the best way how to include these courses in the class, having in mind the teachers, these 3 are listed: Croatian language, media culture, that's called Module C, informatics, ICT, or civic education as a cross-curricular topic. We find it highly relevant for this specific course. Some more details. So in service teachers, primary school, adaptable to secondary, no additional material needed, group work. You could have content analysis, case studies, and discussion. It can be done online and offline. Original language already included, regular classroom setting, and equipment, something we find that is maybe the standard today, but it's always good to also mention all other preconditions that are needed in this area. So some examples to be more relatable. 10 rules of netiquette. Remember the human. Adhere to the same standards of behavior online that you follow in real life. Know where you are in cyberspace. Respect other people's time and bandwidth. Make yourself look good online. Share expert knowledge. Help keep flame wars under control, something that we have problems maybe on everyday basis. Respect other people's privacy. We can have it here also connected with GDPR. Don't abuse your power and be forgiving of other people's mistakes. So these generic rules of netiquette that we are all familiar with should be adopted and provided here in this activity for in-service or pre-service teachers. This is how it looks like in our Croatian version. So the layout is also important, but that's not the only important thing. And yes, if you are familiar with Croatian language, it's highly useful. But also for other colleagues here today with us, if you are interested, do let us know and we will prepare the translation. So these small obstacles are not the reasons why we shouldn't proceed with the full activity. As I said, we have provided 7 different activities, And in our previous network meeting, some of the colleagues have chosen just one, which is also a way how you can approach here. Personal data protection, publication of peers' photographs on social media networks without their prior knowledge and approval, something that is highly relatable in this type of activity. Commenting content on the internet portals and social networks, sexting, connected with cyberbullying, for instance, grooming, and all other types of behavior. Exclusion from social network communities, reporting cyberbullying, and finally, etiquette as rules of proper and decent behavior and communication on the internet. This is how, for instance, looks like the activity that I marked. So that's the second one, publication of peers' photographs on social media networks without their prior knowledge and approval. And here is the total activity explained on Croatian. So you have questions inside, you have main preconditions, goal, outcomes, duration, description of the activity, questions for the group discussion. And we find that these examples are highly relevant. So we need to have these types of preparation in order to produce any type of activity in the classroom. Goal was to analyze how often students post their peers' photos without their knowledge and inform them about the consequences of these practices. The outcome was that the students will be able to explain arguments. And finally, duration 45 minutes, although this is really adjustable and I mean, it's up to you when you enter the classroom on what type of the level will this be. Structure of the activities, introduction to the topic, critical evaluation, group discussion, and finally, recommendation for the community and or class, depending on the surrounding where you are. Critical evaluation. So these are some examples of the questions that could be raised up in the discussion. How often do you publish photographs on social networks? What is the content? How often do you publish photographs of others? Have you ever asked for other person for approval prior to publication? Did you have any complaint from your colleagues or the people that you have published? What will you do if somebody asks you to erase the published content? Has anybody published your photograph without your approval? Are you aware of any rules and regulation in this field? So this is also an opportunity to connect with the regulation aspect, but also with GDPR and other directions. But there is also an added value, and that's because we are connecting media and information literacy with emotional literacy. Because if I come back to all these questions, they are personal. For instance, has anybody published your photograph, or how did you feel in that moment? So for this reason, we are connecting media and information literacy with emotional literacy. And we think that this is one of the really good approach where you can establish even better connection with the participants. That's the thing that we have also learned in many studies that we have done in the last few years. For instance, in the Media Education Handbook on Predicting Futures of Media Education Post-Pandemic, where we saw so many examples where we have very good approach when you ask people how do they feel while being exposed to certain content. So how did you feel? That's the question after this introduction, after the second practice scenario. I think now you have two different types of examples, and I think that we can find some ideas here, or even how to improve them. So not just to contextualize them, to adjust them to our local educational surrounding, but even to improve them. We think that this is important. The added value is also that we always give a step forward and we suggest other materials, other resources, other hyperlinks, database knowledges, and everything else that we can see here. And for this reason, Chloe has already listed and published the link to our repository. And that's definitely one very relevant resource database where you will find so many different approaches to this topic. So finally, last question. Would you be interested to share this scenario?
Let's go to the screen and let's see. We'll get everybody back up again. Can we have another show of hands? People who would be interested in testing out this one as well. Okay, I see some initial interest.
So the Bert was better. He was more creative this time. Okay.
Okay, no, I see some new hands going up. That's the sympathy vote you're getting now. Great. Okay.
Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot.
Thanks so much, Igor. Thank you very much for showing us that one. Okay, we always like to have some interaction time, some time to discuss in these sessions. So what we're going to do in a moment, Chloe is going to break us into breakout sessions. So we will have groups of about 10 or 11 in each group, and myself and Igor and Tamara and Bert and Chloe will go into the groups, and we have a couple of questions which we'd like you to discuss in your breakout rooms. First of all, are these scenarios applicable in your own setting? Adaptable to your own country and practiced reality? And of course, there are only just 2 out of the very many that we're gathering at the moment, but we'd like to have a chance to discuss that with you. And secondly, we'd also like to talk to you about the network and building the network of these teacher trainers in the area of digital and media literacy. So we're going to do that, and then we'll all come back again at 3:05 exactly, our time here in Belgium, and we'll have a quick roundup and a quick hearsay from what everybody has been discussing. So if you just bear with us. Hi, everybody. I think that's everybody back, if I'm not mistaken, Chloe. I think that's everyone back in. Okay, we're going to just do a quick round of what were the main kind of thoughts and points that were coming up in your discussions. Maybe I could go first to Tamara, to your group. Quick feedback.
We had some teacher educators in our group. I believe they will be interested to join the network. First of all, Bert was in our group and he was really popular after his presentation. Yeah, so Bert got compliments. That was first thing we
Okay, and what
we
else
did.
happened besides Bert?
Shortly. So we discussed about these practice scenarios, and everyone agrees that there is no need that you have to bring it in your country in the completely same way as it's presented. The main thing is to get inspiration, an idea, because most of the people that work in media literacy, they create materials on their own, but they also research these kind of materials on the internet, and they always looking for inspirations. Yeah, for additional value to our network, everyone suggested this kind of database that we are already preparing, because there is a lot of network members, and everyone thought it would be useful to see who are these network members. So actually we use this, we show them database in this working type. Yes, so okay. Everyone agreed that it would be useful for everyone so they could connect. The added value of this network is that you can connect and you can get feedback from real people, not to research somewhere on the internet, but with real people, and to contact with creators and share your knowledge. So this is shortly.
Thanks, Tamara. Thank you very much. Igor.
Yeah, we had also a great discussion, although Bert was not in our session. So Bert, next time you have to appear at least for a few minutes time. First thing is that these networks are highly relevant and they are needed, and we need to provide support for teachers, as witnessed by experience from Estonia, from Katrin, and from others. So we definitely need to build on and continue in providing huge support to teachers at the European level. So it's not just a matter of one specific country, but really, as we have already recognized, Sally, from our previous report, that the support is really, really needed. The second thing are the topics, because in our first session, we didn't focus so much on the topics that we are discussing on our network meetings, but the topics are raised up and were really of huge importance. So, for instance, we had an idea to provide more materials on fake news and disinformation concept. We have discussed the thing that we have with the elections next year at the European level. Plus, for instance, in Croatia, we have 3 different types of elections next year. So for that reason, some of the activities could be connected with elections as well. But yes, the need for that type of materials is also expressed clearly. And we have already given some suggestion to our colleague Hilde for a specific activity on this information, and we will provide additional resources focusing on this information, but that goes also for others. So maybe we should also think about to focus even more focused discussion on the topics, not just on the mechanism, on the network, on the context, on communication, coordination, but also on the topics, and think also about the problems and challenges that we could have with the language barrier as well.
Thanks, Igor. And then just to tell you, in our group, first of all, when we started talking about the resources, we actually ended up with the scenarios. We ended up with a very interesting conversation between Charlotte and Tia. Tia in particular is the first time I've come across somebody working specifically with deaf and hard of hearing people and teaching media literacy. And also with Charlotte, there was a connection there. So we actually ended up just talking about that topic kind of briefly in terms of it being quite specific. Interest in the scenarios, I think, certainly. And then we tried to talk a little bit about the support for the network going forward. And Jaco talked a lot about, or brought up the topic of continuity. So as you say, Igor, as well, and we assured him that this is something that we will continue to sustain in the Media and Learning Association, even when the project is finished. So that was an important, just to make that clear as well too. And I think that was everything more or less from our group. And that is from everybody as far as I can see. Any final thoughts from anybody before we just do a roundup of a couple of things we want to share with you? Please feel free to switch on your microphone. I hope today has been useful for you. We will continue with the project. We have another session in a couple of weeks' time where we're going to talk to you about the repository and the modules that are being developed, which is my cue to ask Jeroen to quickly share with us the repository as it currently stands. So you can have a look. It's in a beta version, but please take a look at this. Jeroen, when you share it.
Yes, I will share my screen.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the right, yeah, this is the right one. I was just
description,
yeah, the description, but it was this one I wanted to share. We are setting up a repository, and this is how the repository draft looks like as of today. But what are we gathering? We are gathering all kind of practices, big and small, about making teachers more media literate. So if you have any practice yourself, it doesn't need to be a big course in a university program. It can be very small, a very practical thing that makes your teachers more media literate. This is what we already have. Chloe will put the link in the chat, but you can also provide us with all your practice scenarios, your inspiring practices. We set up forms where you can quickly input your practice. What is it what you want to share, the title, a little bit of more explanation. So this would be very nice to have, that we can really get a big repository to share with you guys and share all the inspiring practices.
Thank you very much. Jeroen, I see this is the form. Chloe's put the form in for you, so
yes,
hope that gets everybody there.
Okay.
That could be a shook. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So one thing I forgot to mention as well too, in our group, we talked specifically about the issue in pre-service. And even within the project, we find it quite difficult to reach into teacher training colleges, to people who are delivering media literacy courses in such colleges. So if you can help us reach out to that community, we'd be really, really grateful. Thank you. That brings our time with you to an end. Thanks so much for joining us. We have a couple of quick slides we're going to run by just to put some dates. First of all, the next Wednesday webinar from TeaMLit, the last one in our series, and that's going to be the one on the repository and on the modules, is taking place on the 13th of December, so do sign up. And then we're having a conference on the 15th of December in the afternoon on standards and best practices and media literacy in Europe. We'd love to have you join us. It's an opportunity for us to talk about media literacy more at a meta level. What makes for good media literacy? Can we define a set of standards? Can we give examples of good practice that others can learn from? So this is a piece of work that we're carrying out in the EDMO community. We'd love to have you join us on the 15th of December. It's open to all to join us for that discussion. Do save the date then if you would like to join us face-to-face. We have a conference which is taking place called Media Literacy Matters, which is being organised in collaboration with several organisations, including Mediawijs and CISEM and Media Animation as part of the Belgian presidency series of events taking place in the first half of the new year. So do join us for that. There's more information about it on events. We also have our special interest groups, which are open to our members on different topics, including the one on digital media literacy. So if you are a member of our association and you'd like to join that SIG, please contact us and we will put you in contact with the people who are organising it. And I think that's everything from us. Thank you for joining us. If you'd like to know more about us, the Media Learning Association, that's the link you should use. And don't forget to sign up to our newsletter. Thanks to my colleagues from the TeaMLit project today for joining us. And we hope that you have enjoyed the session today. And we'll see you at our next event. Bye-bye now. Thanks, Chloe, for all the help.